Hello, are you out there? I'm Mark with HFD Reviews, and we've got Special Weapon Guncaster coming from our very own Grand Knight. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Grand Knight, as always. I just finished eating a cookie for breakfast. It's delicious. It's going to be the dad. You just do whatever you want. And also, my wife's not awake yet, so I can get away with stuff. um, I had been toying around with a custom firearm for my campaign setting, based on a character in my novel. Ooh, Grand Knight novel. Oh, give us a snippet. Give us like a good part of a chapter, and I'll narrate for you, if you don't mind. Throw it out there. It won't hurt nothing. Who can use special ammunition to cast a version of the spell Firebolt, but for any element. This is what I came up with. For your consideration, the Guncaster. It's an item. Okay, this isn't a subclass. A guncaster is a ranged weapon gun category item. Is that how that works? Item? Where's category gun? I don't know. Here we go. The base damage is going to be a 1d10 piercing. That's the actual projectile, just the metal of it, I would guess. Moving really fast. Plus an XD10 element asterisk, which means there's more to come, and the X means it's a multiplier. You can do more than one of them. Variable, right? Variable damage. But it'll already, though, at the base, it's going to be significant. A D10 plus another D10. Yeah, that's good. Good solid hit. Damage type piercing, special, see below, and that makes sense based off of the actual damage. Item rarity, uncommon. Okay. Obviously, you're going to work out with your DM always if there are firearms in your world, in their world. So, properties: ammunition, firearms, loading. Right. So, I mean, obviously, bows, crossbows, slings, guns take ammunition, so you may need to keep track of them. In this case, probably you really need to keep track of them. your shots. It's a specialty item, obviously. And loading means that you can only ever fire once per turn, right? Like crossbows have the loading. Let's just check. Folks. I am actually playing a fighter that uses a crossbow, a light crossbow, because it came in the inventory kit out for the fighter, just out of the handbook. I would have chosen a short bow or a long bow, but I think just based off the kit I chose, I ended up with the crossbow. All right, hey, ranged attack, you got to have something. So yeah, we might as well just take a look here. Loading, here we go, out of the player's handbook, the PBH as we call it. Because of the time required to load this weapon, you can fire only one piece of ammunition from it when you use an action, bonus action, or reaction to fire it, regardless of the number of attacks you can normally take. And that's per round, though. That's in a round. Isn't it interesting they don't specify that? It's like, you got to take a long rest to reload the damn thing. It's because of the time required to load this weapon, you can fire only one piece of ammunition from it when you use an action, bonus action, or reaction to fire it, regardless of the number of attacks you can normally make. Per round. They don't specify that. What am I missing? Sorry, I don't mean to go on a tangent, but isn't it interesting how they've written that? Is it implied? Or does it say, no, if you take an action to fire, but you're a fighter and you get 2 attacks, that doesn't work. You can't just fire bang, bang. You can only fire once on your attack. However, later on that round, an enemy gives you an attack of opportunity, and you use your reaction, you can now fire again, only one time. That's not what that means. Unless I'm missing something, and please let me know, you guys. I know there's somewhere some freaking Jeremy Crawford or whoever came up with a ruling on this, but this should say per round, right? Every round of combat, all the initiative count goes back to 0. You can only fire that sucker once. Okay. I think we all know that's what it means, but I'm just surprised that's how it's worded out of player handbook. Let's get back to the Guncaster. Range 30/90. Sorry, it's coffee. Yeah, sorry guys. 30 30 90. That's pretty short ranged. Maybe for balance, that's important. Actually, I kind of like that. Grand Knight, because you're leaving a role for bows and crossbows with the longer ranges they have. It's a ranged attack. It's just not a long ranged attack. So it's kind of like saying, no, there would be reasons you would use bows or crossbows or be an archer, arcane archer, something like that, because they're going to have longer ranges than this. So I think that's probably a good balancing mechanic you've thrown in there. 30 to 90 is still really functional. One last question would be, is there a way to get a point blank fire feature? Shoot point blank. Because as we know with bows and crossbows, if there's an opponent threatening you within melee range, 5 feet, you have disadvantage on those shots. Now, there's a feat with crossbow that lets you shoot point blank, meaning like they're right there. Would you have that option with this? I could see it, because someone can't really interfere with the string and the mechanism so much. If it's like a gun, like click, click, right? There's not really a way you could, short of, I guess, grabbing the barrel, but you could grab a sword blade and keep someone from hacking you with it. So, although I like the fact that you've turned down the range, I wonder if you could write into the rule on this, since guns are not an official part of D&D that I've seen so far. I would say that maybe you can use this in melee range, that there isn't that detriment. Question mark. I mean, is it like a long gun? Like, I don't think so, because you've specified the range is very short. I mean, you're not telling us. I think you're leaving it to the theater of mind. But I could see like a rifle, like a version of this that shoots out to 100, 300 foot increment, like 100/300, would have that close range. I'm just spitballing. Would have that close range detriment. It's a ranged weapon, but I could see this having like that, like sort of special, hand crossbow style feat where you can just like boink, but it's just built into it because it's all self-contained. The ammunition, there's the bullets in, say, a flintlock style thing. So all you got to do is bam, and it works. And that would make it, again, slightly different than how a short bow / crossbow longbow would work. Maybe. Okay. Weight 3 pounds. So yeah, moderate. It's not too heavy. It's not going to mess up like a rogue's loadout or something. This intricately designed single-shot pistol. Oh, it is a pistol. There you go. We're on the same page. Has been crafted to use special ammunition that allows it to fire special bullets that deal elemental damage, in addition to its base damage upon impact. Yeah, the 1d10 piercing. Because of the time required to load this weapon, you can fire only one. This is you're giving us a load definition. I appreciate that. You can fire only one piece of ammunition from it when you use an action, bonus action, or reaction to fire it, regardless of the number of attacks you can normally make per round? Question mark. That's boilerplate. I mean, it's essentially what's in the book. I like that. I like that you're putting it there. I mean, it's really smart when you're creating something like Homebrew to give clarity to people who, reading through it, may not know that one rule out of 50, right? I mean, there's hundreds of pages of player handbook. We don't all memorize it, but there's a set of rules, a few dozen of the really big ones you need to know, and then there's a few dozen more obscure ones that, depending on your class, are going to matter, right? Like, how high can you jump, right? That's like that's not one you need to know, but one you could know because it comes up occasionally. This is one of those. So I appreciate you putting that definition in. That's smart. Good Homebrew. Okay, the bullet can be empowered by an arcane ammunition smith using arcane dust, which can be purchased for 2 GP an ounce. All right. I don't know if that's an official thing or if you're just kind of quantifying it for the sake of building this out. But I like, I can see that's expensive. You're going to want to be, it's not like you're necessarily going to take a shot every single round with this thing. You might budget your ammunition and switch to other weapons. So that's an interesting like downward pressure to make a character not a one-trick pony. So yeah, you're kind of playing to the role play of it a little bit. I like that. Depending on the strength of the ammunition, the amount of arcane dust that will be required for a single bullet will increase. Oh, to craft it. Hopefully not on the weight though. You're saying like you're going to use more dust to make the one shot, but the weight of the bullet stays the same, right? Okay. Base damage is 1d10 with the chosen element, but can be improved up to 4d10. Ooh. So the 1d10 piercing plus up to 4d10 for the element, that's no joke. 5d10 in a round. Yeah. It doesn't like blow every other weapon out of the water, but if you had enough money to buy the ammo, and you can choose which bullets off your little bandolier, whatever. What's like the ammo strap? You can be like a fire, ice, poison. It's cool. Guncaster ammunition. We're getting a little twofer here. So we're not counting the ammunition as its own homebrew item. We're just categorizing it under the guncaster, which is the only place where it's relevant. Right? This is all homebrew. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Okay. Standard bullets are sold for 3 GP. This would be a bullet you could fire for just the 1d10 piercing with no other. I like that. Right? Is that what we're talking about? Like it's just a bullet. It's like a cantrip almost. Yeah. So 3 silver shot. Yeah, that makes sense. It's obviously even a regular bullet would be a super specialized item. 3 silver. It's probably a day's pay for a farmer to a couple days pay for even regular farmer. So it's something only an adventure or royalty would be able to afford to have, but you could get a lot of them. So I think that's cool. Maybe specify that it is that 10 standard, piercing damage bullets, the 1d10 only. Like give it its own, lay it out there that yes, this could work this way. Maybe like non-magically? Question mark. I don't know if that's what you intend. It costs 2 GP per ounce of arcane dust to empower a single bullet. However, this cost will increase as the strength of the elemental damage increases. Okay. As stated above, the bullets can be created by an arcane ammunition smith using arcane dust, which can be purchased for 2 GP an ounce, right? You can also attempt to craft the ammunition yourself. You will need smith's tools and jeweler's tools for the process. This is if you are not an arcane ammunition smith? Sorry. No, you have to be an arcane ammunition smith to do this? Yeah, you're saying that they can be crafted by an arcane ammunition smith. That would include yourself if you are one, but this is the skills you need. Smith's tools, jeweler's tool. If you're proficient in both types of tools, you can only add your proficiency bonus once. So you take the better of the two. Okay, and make the roll, but you need both types of tools equipment-wise. I like that. That means, depending on your smith's tools and your jeweler's tools, the weight of it might not be something that's practical for you to carry around everywhere. So it would behoove you and your party to potentially create a home base where this kind of equipment, your alchemical lab, your herbalism kit exists, and you guys can do those projects. Your group can do the projects. Again, that lends itself to role play really well. I like that. The cost per strength is as follows. DC is for crafting the ammunition yourself. First level, D10, DC 3, 1 ounce, 2 GP. Right, you specified that. So we're not taking into account the 3 silver per bullet. So that's like a non-magical version. This is just saying, no, you get the whole bullet. There's no extra cost. It's just 2 GP worth of the arcane dust and metal, just say iron. There's no functional cost. You put in the 2 GP, you make a successful DC 3, you've created that basic ammo. The only way you could fail at that would be like you roll a 1. I mean, I don't even think you could fail. It might be too low, possibly, because to use the tools, you've got to be proficient, right? Like you can't fake it. Someone who's not proficient in smith's tools and or jeweler's tools isn't. So in minimum your proficiencies 2, that means there's no way you can roll less than 3, unless you're at a table where a 1 is a critical failure. Just I don't know. I don't know exactly what to do with that. It's so low, that's a lower DC than I would ever have someone make, just to be honest. I could see so let's see here. Let's look at your progression. You go DC 3, 7, 11, 14. So these are getting significant here. I like that you're jumping up by 4 each time. It's a considerable detriment, but if you're skilled with your tools, you have a reasonable chance of hitting that DC 14, especially as you reach into higher levels. So let's say you're starting out with the proficiency, it's int based to use the tool plus your proficiency. So you're say at like a +5, you're going to make that like 40% of the time. It that would be at a low level. If you get your skill, your attribute that it's based off of up, and your proficiency bonus to a +4, +5, you're gonna make it like 75% of the time. You're gonna be successful quite a bit without wasting that. And that is per shot, rolling over and over. So by the odds, you will have failures come up. I almost wonder though if maybe this should be if you should go like DC 5 and then advance by 3s instead of start at DC 3 and advance by 4. So like go 5, 8, 11, 14. Did I do that math right? You go up by 4, you go up by 4. Yeah. 5, 8, 11, 14. Does that work? Oh, because you only increase the final DC by 3. That's right. You go up by 4, you go up by 4, and then this one here, 11 to 14, is only an increase by 3. That's why it works. So if you want to keep it uniform, you could go 5, 8, 11, 14. Yeah, no, that would work. That would work perfectly. Actually, this one here should probably be a DC 15 if you keep the progression normal. But the ounce progression stays normal. The GP progression stays normal. It all looks good. Oh, you have to have a level. Oh, shoot. Oh, I see. That actually makes a lot of sense. That didn't even occur to me. You're gating the amount of damage you can dump out. You can't be a 3rd level arcane smith and be making these 4D loadouts, the 7-ounce loadouts you can't do. Okay. That actually makes a lot of sense. He's just like, well, it'd be real powerful. Just find a chest of gold. You're set. You're going to be kicking ass. But, okay, let's keep going. You pick your element of a single bullet at the time of creation, and it cannot be changed later. Okay, so you're marking each bullet. Each bullet is what it is. So this would be like if you found like a drow, you get some poison bolts, and you've got 5 of them. They add a 2d6 poison to every shot that's successful. But once you've used up the 5, they're gone. And they're different than the other bolts you have in your quiver, right? Okay. Once fired, the bullet is destroyed, cannot be recovered. That makes sense. The bullet itself would be useless without everything else. Elemental type you may pick from: acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, necrotic, poison, radiant. Oh, it's not everything. The following damage types cannot be empowered into ammunition: bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, psychic, thunder. Interesting. I understand the bludgeoning, piercing, slashing because it's just a projectile metal or stone, whatever, crystal. It's only so much material. Psychic damage, I get. That would be hard to empower something that would hit you in the belly, right? But then damage your psyche. Thunder? I almost feel like you could make an exploding shot where the bullet travels, hits, does the piercing damage, and explodes sonically. I think the first 4 work really well. The thunder, I think you could make thunder work. I think in fiction you could have an explosive boom, shock. What's the flashbang kind of, right? The SWAT teams use in all the crazy games you kids play. So yeah, thunder, maybe not. Okay. Rune arrow creation. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. In the same way as the ammunition for the rune caster, you may also create arrows for a bolt or crossbow. Okay. With the range of the bow or crossbow? Whoa. That's no joke. For rune arrows, you will need 1 ounce of dust per every arrow you wish to create. Wait, what's the base for the bullets? 2? Wait, oh shit. with an incremental base cost on the strength of the rune equal to its base arcane dust cost. Based on the strength of the rune. The cost chart is the same as above for the ammunition for the guncaster. All right, is the 1 ounce the same? Sorry. 1 ounce for each arrow you create. Okay, let's talk about this. I like the idea of being able to make arcane arrows. I have no complaint about that, but I guess I'm just confused by the 1 ounce. Is it just identical? Is the cost identical as to making the bullets? Or is there an additional 1 ounce of dust per every arrow you wish to create with an incremental cost based on the strength? We'll wrap this up. I know this is long. Think about this, because you have given a range of 30/90 to the guncaster item. But we're talking about bullets and arrows here, which are not that item specifically. If you're making longbow ammunition for this that doesn't have the loaded thing, that you've now made a massive power differential. So I would suggest you, Grand Knight, either cutting the rune arrow creation part out of this until you fixed it up, or come back in and edit and fix this up, because this is a massive under what the fudge imbalance relative to the gun. If I can have a longbow with this ammunition with a range of 150 to 600, is that what I want to look it up? But we all know longbow's like crazy long, and longbow doesn't suffer from loading. I don't know a way you can fix it, except maybe to say that it's more expensive to make crossbow and bow ammunition. Like that it costs double the cost or something like that. You have to have some sort of downward pressure on there. Because otherwise your gun becomes useless in a world where an arcane smith, ammunition smith, or arrowsmith can just make the rune arrows. There's got to be a trade-off there. That range. Okay, let's think about this. Two types of weapons, bows and guns. The gun caster being a specialized type of gun. 2 types of ammunition, bullets and arrows, or bullets and bolts. You get my point. So, with all the weapons in the book, not all the weapons are the same. They are balanced, though, around certain things like finesse, the light, two-handedness, the damage dice, whether it's a 2d6 versus like a 1d12, all these things are built around. There is a balancing thing there. Has anybody ever figured out why crossbows are a thing in D&D? Don't the short bow and the longbow just seem so superior to the crossbow, in particular the fact that you could fire, they don't have the loading issue? Why I mean, I understand why crossbows for color and stuff. But my gosh, if it was a question of a heavy crossbow versus a long, I'm sorry. I bring it up because you're running into this issue by adding in this rune arrow creation. I think it really needs to be separated out and thought out well. Just going to look here real quick. We all know a longbow is a badass weapon. Heavy crossbow's range is 100 to 400, whereas the longbow is 150 to 600. They're both heavy weapons. They're both two-handed weapons. But the heavy crossbow has the loading feature, and it fires at a 1d10, whereas the longbow fires at a 1d8. The weight is massively different. Heavy crossbow weighs 18 pounds, longbow weighs 2 pounds. Not that that may necessarily matter, but Geez, that D10 for the heavy crossbow when the range is less and it has the loading property. I don't know. Oh my god. Oh, I'm having allergies this morning. I've sneezed like 5 times already. Oh, I don't want to sneeze. Okay, that's it for now. I like the item. I like the idea that it's discrete from guns, just a regular gun, flintlock. You can't just take an arcane ammunition and put it into any weapon. It has to be the guncaster. I like that you've limited the range to 30/90. I think that it leaves a place for crossbows and bows and arrows. I I think the only place I'm getting hung up here is I think you should take this rune arrow creation part out and maybe work up your own system, a separate system for generating per whatever arrows and bolts. But it would make no sense to use a guncaster. And it's not like guncasters are like simple weapons either. It's like, well, this is a weapon a a warlock can use, but they can't use a longbow because it's a martial weapon, or whatever. I don't know, but I haven't thought about it that much. But I like the rest of it. I honestly have no issue from everything from rune arrow up. I think is really solid. Although I think you could do the thunder damage. I think thunder damage. Thank you for sharing. I won't belabor it anymore, but I really appreciate your time. And if anyone watched, thank you so much.